Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brad Means.
And I'm Jenny Montgomery. Coverage you can count on continues with the surge in early voting during this election. The biggest issues so far appear to be long lines and wait times at some precincts. News Channel 6's Atlanta Bureau Chief Archit Seshadri asked the Secretary of State what's being done to solve those issues before Election Day.
Georgia can now count a new voting record. The Secretary of State says nearly 250,000 people in Georgia have already cast their ballots in just the first 2 days of early voting.
We are working with the counties to assure they are prepared for what we anticipate will be a record turnout for Election Day on November 3rd.
Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger says around 10% of Georgia's registered voters have already cast their ballots.
128,000 people is quite manageable whenever someone shows up at 7 o'clock. It's just a high capacity.
Raffensperger says the state plans to deploy more equipment and extra workers to avoid lines like the primaries.
If you look at those lines, they look like they're long, but everyone is spaced 6 feet out on center, and that just makes your lines look a whole lot longer. It also takes longer to actually vote through the process because the machines have to be cleaned down, wiped.
The Secretary of State also addressed the issue with bandwidth with the eNet system, and he says they are working with a vendor to resolve that. He compared it to saying if everybody shows up at the polls at once, it can overload the system. So they are troubleshooting that issue as we speak, but he does assure Georgia voters that that will not be an issue on Election Day because they check in voters with polling pads.
We have seen some lines in some counties. Those with lines are adding equipment to deal with those issues.
Raffensperger hopes that Georgians take advantage of early voting or absentee ballots to avoid large crowds on Election Day.
What I would really encourage the 1.6 million people that have requested an absentee ballot, we would really be grateful if all 1.6 million of those ballots actually came in and people didn't then show up to vote in person.
Reporting in Atlanta, Archit Seshadri, Atlanta Bureau Chief.